The transport ship emerged from jump space with a flash of blue light. Inside the command bridge of station, Commander watched the vessel approach through the main viewport. The ship was massive, built from dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Weapon ports lined its hull like teeth in a predator's mouth. "They're here," Lieutenant Sophie Grant said from her position at the communications console. She looked up with calm eyes. "The delegation is requesting permission to dock." Nodded, "Grant them access to Bay 3. Send the welcoming committee to meet them." This was humanity's first official contact with the Dominion. They controlled 6 star systems and had ruled their corner of space for over 3,000 years. They were warriors, proud and powerful. Every species that knew them spoke with respect tinged with fear. Now they were coming to station to discuss a treaty with the species to reach the stars. The docking process took 20 minutes. Used the time to straighten his uniform and review the cultural briefings one more time. They valued strength above all else. They respected directness and despised weakness. Their society was built on combat prowess and martial honor. When the airlock finally opened, got his first look at the aliens in person. War Prime stood over 7 feet tall. His body was covered in natural armor plates that grew from his skin like thick shells. Each plate was dark green and looked harder than steel. His eyes were large and golden, positioned to give him a wide field of vision. Behind him stood 12 warriors, each one armed and armored. "Commander," said in perfect English. The translator implant in his throat converted his native clicking language into human speech. "We greet you in the name of the Dominion." Stepped forward and extended his hand. "Welcome to Station, War Prime. We're honored to host you." Looked at the offered hand for a moment. Then he reached out and grasped it. His grip was strong but controlled. Matched it without flinching. Something flickered in the alien's golden eyes, perhaps surprised that the small human didn't pull away. "Your station is impressive," said as they walked through the corridors. "For such a young species, you have built well." "We learn fast," replied. "Earth taught us that adaptation means survival." The tour took 2 hours. Showed them the docking bays, the research labs, and the observation deck that looked out over the gas giant station orbited. The warriors examined everything with professional interest. Noticed they moved with perfect discipline, each step calculated and precise. Lieutenant Grant met them in the conference room where the formal greetings would take place. She had prepared everything according to custom. No chairs, since they preferred to stand during official meetings. Refreshments that matched their dietary needs. Lighting adjusted to their preferred spectrum. The ceremony was formal and lengthy. Both sides exchanged official greetings and statements of intent. Spoke of the Dominion's long history and their interest in peaceful relations with humanity. Responded with humanity's hopes for cooperation and mutual benefit. Through it all, noticed the way the warriors watched the human crew. Their eyes tracked every movement with predatory focus. They were assessing, measuring, calculating, had seen that look before in soldiers evaluating potential threats. Scout Commander Ra, one of senior warriors, approached Sophie Grant during a break in the proceedings. "Your species is small," Ra said. Her voice held no insult, just observation. "Your Earth, our scans show it is a moderate planet, low gravity, mild climate. How did such a gentle world produce a spacefaring race?" Grant smiled. "Earth has its challenges, we adapted to meet them." "Indeed," Ra clicked thoughtfully. "All species adapt, but you are. Fragile compared to warrior races, no natural armor, no weapons grown from your body. How do you survive conflicts?" "We use our minds," Grant replied, "and we're tougher than we look." Ra made a sound that the translator converted to polite skepticism. The formal ceremonies concluded as the station's day cycle moved toward evening. Showed the delegation to their guest quarters, a series of rooms near the observation deck that had been specially prepared for them. "We will meet tomorrow morning to begin treaty discussions," said. "Station dawn is at 0600 hours. The negotiations will begin at 0900. That gives everyone time for morning routines." "Morning routines?" asked. "Exercise, breakfast, preparation for the day," explained. "Standard procedure for the crew." Nodded. "We have similar practices. Warriors must maintain combat readiness." "Exactly," agreed. He didn't mention that every human on the station followed the same routine, not just the security personnel. After the delegation retired to their quarters, returned to his office. Grant followed him inside and closed the door. "They think we're weak," she said without preamble. "I noticed," replied. He sat down at his desk and pulled up the day's reports. "Did you see how Ra looked at our crew like we were children playing at being spacers? Should we correct their assumptions?" Consider the question. "No, let them learn naturally. Tomorrow morning should be educational." Grant smiled. "You're going to let them see morning PT." "The guest quarters have a perfect view of the main gym," said. "I imagine curious warriors might notice the activity." "That's cruel, Commander." "That's diplomatic," corrected. "We don't need to boast, we just need to be ourselves, the rest will follow." Grant left to finish her evening duties, sat alone in his office, looking out at the stars beyond the viewport. Somewhere out there, humanity's reputation was growing. Other species were starting to understand that the friendly newcomers from Earth were more than they appeared to be. They would learn the same lesson tomorrow. They would see what humans called a normal morning. They would witness the casual routines that every human performed without thinking. And they would understand why other species had started calling humans by a new name. Born from a world that tried to kill them, shaped by pressure that would break other races, walking among the stars with the strength of it in their bones and the hunger of apex predators in their blood. But that was tomorrow's revelation. Tonight, the warriors would sleep in their quarters, confident in their assessment of humanity as pleasant but ultimately weak. They would rest easy, certain of their superiority. Tomorrow morning would change everything. Shut down his workstation and headed for his own quarters. He had a busy day ahead. Morning PT at 0600, breakfast at 0730, then negotiations with aliens who were about to get the shock of their military careers. He smiled as he walked through the quiet corridors. Somewhere in the guest quarters was probably reporting to his superiors that the humans seemed nice enough. Friendly, diplomatic, nothing to worry about. Tomorrow they would learn what breakfast meant to a species from Earth. The station's dawn cycle began at 0600 hours exactly. Automated systems gradually increased the lighting throughout the corridors, mimicking the sunrise that humans evolved to wake with. In the guest quarters, the warriors stirred from their rest, rose from his meditation platform, and stretched his armored limbs. Around him, his warriors were already moving through their own morning rituals. Tradition demanded that warriors greet each day with focused meditation and controlled breathing exercises. It centered the mind and prepared the body for whatever challenges lay ahead. Ra finished her meditation first. She moved to the large viewport that dominated one wall of their quarters. The view showed part of the station's interior, including what appeared to be a large open space several levels below. Lights were coming on inside that space, revealing equipment and open floor areas. "War Prime," she called quietly. "There is activity in the human sections." Joined her at the viewport. Through the transparent barrier, they could see human crew members entering the large space. The humans were wearing minimal clothing, far less than their normal uniforms. Some wore only short pants and cloth coverings over their chests. "What are they doing?" another warrior asked, moving closer to watch. The humans were spreading out across the open space. Commander appeared, dressed in the same minimal clothing as his crew. He said something that made several humans laugh. Then he raised his voice and the laughter stopped. Everyone faced him with immediate attention. "A training hall," realized. "They are beginning combat exercises." Ra activated her scanner, curious to observe how humans practiced warfare. What she saw in the first few minutes made her question her equipment's accuracy. Called out commands and the humans responded instantly. They dropped to the floor and began pushing their bodies up and down using only their arms. 30 humans moving in perfect synchronization, lifting their entire body weight repeatedly. Ra's scanner showed their heart rates climbing, their muscles straining. "How many repetitions?" one of the younger warriors asked. Ra watched in silence. The humans continued the exercise for what seemed like an impossible duration. 20 repetitions, 30, 50. Some of them were breathing hard now, but none stopped. None showed signs of giving up. 78, Ra said quietly when finally called for them to stop. They performed 78 full body lifts. "That is warrior-level conditioning," said. "But look at them, scientists, engineers. I see the medical officer who gave us the tour yesterday. These are not combat specialists." The humans moved to the next exercise without rest. They formed lines and began running in place, lifting their knees high with each step. The impact of 30 pairs of feet hitting the floor created a rhythmic thunder that echoed through the training hall. Ran with them, calling out encouragement and occasional instructions. More warriors gathered at the viewport now. All 12 of Skard watched the scene below with growing fascination. "They run but go nowhere," one warrior observed. "What is the purpose?" "Endurance training," Ra answered. She had studied many species' military traditions. "They are building cardiovascular capacity, but the intensity is extreme for a species their size." After 10 minutes of running in place, called for the next exercise. The humans grabbed metal bars mounted on a wall structure and pulled themselves upward until their chins cleared the bar. Then they lowered and repeated, over and over, fighting gravity with raw muscle strength. Lieutenant Grant was among them. The small human female who had spoken with Ra yesterday was now demonstrating physical power that seemed impossible for her frame. She completed 20 pull-ups without pausing, her arms trembling but not failing. "How is this possible?" a warrior whispered. "Her body mass is half of ours. The leverage ratios do not support this level of strength." Said nothing. He was watching Commander, who had moved to a different area where metal weights were stacked. The human commander loaded a long bar with circular weights, adding mass on both sides until the total made Ra's scanner chirp in alarm. Positioned himself beneath the bar, gripped it with both hands, and lifted. The weight rose off its supports as pushed upward. His arms extended fully, holding the massive weight above his chest. Then he lowered it in a controlled descent and repeated the movement. "That weight," Ra checked her scanner again, "that is 140 kilograms. "Impossible," said. "No human that size should be able to lift such mass, not without mechanical assistance." But completed 10 repetitions before setting the weight down. He stood, rolled his shoulders, and moved to help another crew member adjust their equipment. The training continued. Humans performed exercises that would challenge warriors. They lifted weights that seemed disproportionate to their body size. They ran distances that tested endurance limits. They practiced combat movements with a precision that spoke of long training and constant practice. After 40 minutes, divided the crew into pairs. What happened next made every warrior at the viewport lean closer. The humans began fighting each other. Lieutenant Grant stepped into a marked ring with Security Chief Hayes. Both humans touched hands briefly, then raised their fists in defensive positions. Hayes threw the first punch. Grant blocked and countered with a strike to his midsection. The impact was audible even through the viewport barrier. They fought with controlled violence. Punches were thrown with full power but aimed at padded protective gear both wore on their torsos. When strikes connected, the sound echoed through the training hall. Hayes landed a solid hit to Grant's ribs. She absorbed it without retreating and immediately countered with a combination that drove Hayes back 2 steps. "They are trying to hurt each other," a warrior said in disbelief. "No," Ra corrected. "They are training, teaching their bodies to give and receive damage, but look at the force they use. That is not practice fighting. That is real combat with safety measures." Other pairs of humans fought in their own marked areas. A young female named Murphy fought against an older male engineer. Despite the size difference, Murphy held her own, using speed and technique to compensate for lesser reach. Between rounds of combat, called for more exercises, the humans dropped to the floor for another set of push-ups, rose to their feet for jumping movements that carried their entire body weight into the air repeatedly, returned to the weights to lift more mass. Through it all, they were laughing. Between exercises, humans joked with each other. They encouraged crew members who struggled. They treated this brutal physical punishment as normal, even enjoyable. "This is their morning routine?" asked quietly. "This violence and exhaustion before they even begin their daily duties?" "Commander said they had morning routines," Ra reminded him. "He said it was standard procedure for the crew." "All of them?" another warrior asked. "Even the civilians?" They watched as a scientist they recognized from yesterday's tour completed a set of weights that would challenge a soldier. The human smiled at his companion and moved to the next station. The training session lasted a full hour. When finally called for the end, the humans were sweating and breathing hard, but they formed neat lines and performed a synchronized series of stretching movements to cool down their muscles. Then they dispersed, heading toward what was likely the bathing facilities. The warriors stood in silence at the viewport. "We judged them weak," said finally. "Small creatures from a gentle world who smile and speak of cooperation." "They maintained that level of intensity for 60 minutes, Ra said, reviewing her scanner data. "Heart rates that would indicate combat stress for our species. Weight lifted that exceeds their body mass by factors of 2 or 3, and they do this every morning." "Before breakfast," one warrior remembered. "Commander said they would have breakfast after their morning routine." Turned away from the viewport, his warriors looked at him with new uncertainty in their eyes. They had arrived yesterday confident in their superiority. The humans had seemed pleasant but ultimately inferior. Now those assumptions were crumbling. "War Prime," Ra said carefully, "perhaps we should reconsider our intelligence about Earth. The scans showed it as a moderate world, but what we just witnessed suggests their evolution occurred under significant pressure." "Agreed," said. "Request updated data on the human, complete geological and biological records. I want to know what kind of planet produces people who treat that level of physical training as routine." The warriors returned to their morning rituals, but the mood had changed. They had come to negotiate with a species they believed to be weak. Now they had questions. If this was how humans started their day, what were they capable of when truly challenged? What kind of world had forged them into creatures who could smile while performing feats of strength that impressed warrior races? And most disturbing of all, if this was just breakfast preparation, what came next? The invitation came an hour after the training session ended. Commander personally contacted the quarters and asked if the delegation would join the human crew for breakfast in the main mess hall. Accepted immediately. His warriors needed to understand these strange beings better, and observing them during a meal might provide insights. The mess hall was large and filled with natural light from viewports along one wall. Long tables were arranged throughout the space, and the smell of cooking food filled the air. Humans were already gathering, moving through a service line where food was being distributed. Met the delegation at the entrance. He looked refreshed and relaxed, showing no signs of the exhausting training session from earlier. "Welcome," he said with genuine warmth. "We're honored to share our morning meal with you." "The honor is ours," replied. He noticed that every human in the room watched with curiosity but not fear. These small beings had just witnessed 12 armored warriors enter their eating space, and they remained completely calm. "Our food may not match your dietary needs," explained. "But we want you to see what a typical morning meal looks like for our crew. Understanding culture includes understanding how people fuel their bodies." Lieutenant Grant appeared with a data pad. "We have prepared compatible nutrition if you prefer," she offered, "but you're welcome to observe our breakfast service." Ra stepped forward. "We would like to observe. Understanding your customs will aid in our negotiations." What they saw at the service line made their translators struggle for accurate descriptions. The first human in line, an engineer named, held out his tray. The server loaded it with 6 eggs, cooked until the yellow centers were solid. Next came meat, thick slabs of protein from earth animals, charred on the outside and still pink within. Grain products followed, multiple types arranged around the protein. Moved down the line, more food was added. Vegetables, though these seemed to be merely decorative compared to the massive portions of protein and grains. A cup of dark liquid that scanned as a stimulant beverage. Then another cup of the same liquid. "That is enough food for an entire day," a warrior whispered. But's tray was not unusual. The next human, Murphy from the training session, received a similar load. So did the next crew member and the next. Every human filled their tray with quantities that seemed excessive. Gestured toward a table where his senior staff was gathering. "Please sit with us, or stand if you prefer. We understand comfort requirements." The delegation positioned themselves around the table where they could observe clearly. Lieutenant Grant sat down with her own tray, which held slightly less food but still more than any would consume in a morning meal. "I apologize if this seems strange," Grant said to Ra. "We know our eating habits can surprise other species." "You consume this much food every morning?" Ra asked. "Standard breakfast," Grant confirmed. She cut into her eggs and took a bite. "After morning PT, our bodies need fuel to recover and prepare for the day's work." At the next table was eating with focused efficiency. The 6 eggs disappeared in minutes. The meat followed quickly. He paused to drink 1 full cup of the dark stimulant, then continued eating. Around him, other humans consumed their meals with similar dedication. That stimulant beverage asked, "What is its purpose?" "Coffee," said. He held up his own cup. "It's a mild stimulant that helps us wake up and focus. Contains caffeine, which is a chemical compound that enhances alertness." Mild. Ra's scanner was showing readings on the coffee that indicated it would be considered a dangerous drug for most species. Smiled. "For humans, yes, we have a high tolerance for caffeine. Some of us drink 4 or 5 cups throughout the day." He took a long drink from his cup. "This is actually my second one this morning." Dr. Tors joined their table, carrying her own loaded tray. "Good morning, War Prime," she said cheerfully. "I hope you're finding our station comfortable." "Very much so," replied. He watched as Tors began eating. She was a scientist, not a warrior, yet she consumed food in quantities that would sustain a soldier through combat operations. "Dr. Tors," Ra said carefully, "may I ask about Earth? Our initial scans suggested it was a moderate world, but after observing your morning training, we are reconsidering that assessment." Tors paused with her fork halfway to her mouth. Something flickered in her eyes. Understanding, perhaps, or recognition that this question had been asked before. "Who conducted your scans?" "The trade mission," answered. "They visited your system 3 cycles ago and provided data to the Galactic database." "Ah," Tors set down her fork. They're from a low-gravity world with minimal atmospheric pressure, correct?" "Yes," Ra confirmed. "That explains the classification error," Tors said. She pulled out her data pad and began calling up files. "To the Earth probably does seem moderate, but you should see the actual planetary data." She turned the pad so they could view the screen. Numbers scrolled past, each one making the warriors lean closer in disbelief. "Gravity," Tors began. "Earth's surface gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared. How does that compare to your War Prime?" "Has 7.2, said quietly. His warriors were staring at the data pad. "So we evolved under roughly 1.4 times your gravity," Tors continued. "Our muscles, bones, and cardiovascular systems developed to handle that constant pressure. When we come to standard galactic environments with lower gravity, we feel lighter, stronger, faster." Ra was scanning the data now, her own device chirping with alerts. "Your atmospheric composition, the oxygen levels are toxic." "To most species, yes," Tors agreed. 21% oxygen content. We need that much to fuel our metabolism. Our bodies burn energy fast and hot. That's why we eat so much. We're constantly consuming fuel to maintain our operational capacity." More data appeared on the screen. Weather patterns that included storms with wind speeds exceeding 200 kilometers per hour. Temperature ranges from extreme heat to extreme cold. Seismic activity that never stopped. Volcanic events that could darken skis for years. "Your world is geologically active?" asked. "Extremely," Tors confirmed. "Earth's core is molten iron. We have tectonic plates constantly moving, grinding against each other. Earthquakes are common. Volcanic eruptions happen regularly. The planet is literally trying to tear itself apart under our feet, and we built our civilization on top of it." She pulled up an image of Earth from space. It looked beautiful, blue and green and white, but now they were seeing it with new understanding. "That large satellite," Ra pointed at the moon in the image, "it affects your tides." "Creates them," Tors said. "Our moon is unusually large for a planet our size. It pulls at our oceans with massive force. Tides rise and fall meters every day. Early humans lived on coastlines where the sea could advance or retreat by kilometers depending on the moon's position." Was eating while Tors spoke, consuming his breakfast with calm efficiency. "Earth didn't give us any advantages," he added. "We don't have natural armor like you do, War Prime. No built-in weapons. Our bodies are vulnerable to damage. We developed intelligence and cooperation because those were our only survival tools." "But your physical conditioning," a warrior objected. "What we saw this morning was warrior-level training." "That's maintenance," Grant explained. "Our bodies adapted to Earth's conditions, but they require constant work to maintain peak efficiency. If we don't exercise regularly, we lose muscle mass and cardiovascular capacity. So we train every day not to become warriors, but just to stay healthy." Tors brought up another file. "This is a comparison of human physiology to galactic norms." She displayed it for the Our bone density is 1.3 times standard. Our muscle fiber composition includes more fast-twitch types for explosive movement. Our pain tolerance is unusually high because injuries were common in our evolutionary history. We needed to be able to continue functioning even when hurt. Ra was reading through the data with growing amazement. Your healing capacity. You can regenerate from injuries that would cripple other species. Bones actually heal back stronger than before they broke, Tors confirmed. Our immune systems treat most galactic pathogens as minor nuisances. We have redundant organs for critical systems. And our endurance is exceptional because we evolved as persistence hunters. We would chase prey for hours, even days, until it collapsed from exhaustion. The mess hall around them continued to fill with humans eating their massive breakfasts. A young ensign sat down nearby with a tray that somehow held even more food than the others. He greeted his companions cheerfully and began eating while discussing the day's maintenance schedule. "This is normal for your entire species?" asked quietly. "Not enhanced soldiers or special units." "Every human," confirmed. "These are engineers, scientists, medical staff, communications officers, normal people living normal lives. We just happen to come from a world that built us tough." Tors added one more file to her display. Earth is classified as a Class 4 by galactic standards. Only 12 known species evolved on worlds more hostile than ours. The environment was so dangerous that it pushed our evolution into overdrive. We didn't choose to be like this. Earth made us this way. The warriors stood in silence, processing this information. Around them, humans continued eating breakfast, drinking coffee, laughing and talking about ordinary things. None of them seemed aware that they were terrifying a delegation of warriors simply by being themselves. "The training this morning," Ra said slowly. "That was not preparation for war, that was just maintenance." "Correct," Grant said, "though it also keeps us combat ready. Our military recognized that every human is naturally built for warfare. We just needed to teach technique and tactics. The physical capability was already there." Looked at his warriors. They were all thinking the same thing. Yesterday, they had judged humans as weak, friendly but inferior. Today, after witnessing breakfast and learning the truth about Earth, they understood they had made a terrible mistake in assessment. These small beings were apex predators from a planet that would kill most galactic species within days. They walked through normal space like it was a vacation from the hell they evolved in. They called brutal physical training a morning routine and consumed quantities of food and stimulants that would poison other races. And they smiled while doing it. They joked and laughed and treated their own terrifying capabilities as just another normal day. Finished his breakfast and set down his fork. "Shall we proceed to the conference room? I believe we have a treaty to discuss." The morning's revelations changed everything about the treaty negotiations, and his warriors entered the conference room with new respect evident in every movement. They no longer viewed the humans as pleasant but weak. Now they saw potential allies who had literally been forged in fire and pressure. Opened the proceedings with formal statements, but Ra interrupted politely. "Commander, before we begin the standard negotiations, may I request additional information about human capabilities? The cultural exchange has revealed significant gaps in our understanding." "Of course," replied. He gestured to Medical Officer Carl Madison, who had been waiting with prepared files. "Dr. Madison can provide detailed information about human physiology and our adaptation to space environments." Madison activated the main display screen. "What would you like to know, Scout Commander?" "Everything," Ra said simply. "We based our diplomatic approach on incomplete data. That was foolish. Warriors do not enter unknown territory without proper reconnaissance." Madison smiled slightly. "I appreciate the honesty. Let me start with basic human construction." He pulled up a three-dimensional model of human anatomy. "We are, by galactic standards, overbuilt for most environments we encounter in space." The model rotated, showing internal systems. Redundant organs where possible, 2 lungs when one would suffice, 2 kidneys for filtration. Even our brain has redundant neural pathways that can compensate if sections are damaged. This redundancy evolved because Earth was dangerous enough that backup systems meant survival. "Your skeleton," observed, studying the model. "It appears dense." "Extremely," Madison confirmed. "Our bones are hollow like most species, but the walls are thick and the internal structure is reinforced. This gives us strength without excessive weight. We can fall from heights that would shatter other species' bones and walk away with bruises. He brought up comparison data. Human bone density is roughly 1.3 times galactic standard, but the real advantage is in healing. When we break a bone, the repair process actually makes it stronger than before. The body lays down extra calcium at the break site. Many human athletes deliberately stress their bones to trigger this strengthening response. A warrior made a sound of disbelief. You injure yourselves intentionally to become stronger. It's called training, Madison said. Controlled damage followed by recovery. We do it with muscles too. Exercise tears muscle fibers at a microscopic level. The body repairs them thicker and stronger. That's why we maintain such rigorous physical routines. We're constantly breaking down and rebuilding our bodies. Ra was taking extensive notes. Your pain tolerance. We noticed during the combat training that humans absorbed significant impacts without stopping. Pain is a signal, Madison explained. It tells us something is wrong, but humans evolved to keep functioning through pain because stopping meant death on Earth. We can acknowledge pain, process it, and continue operating. Our threshold is unusually high compared to most species. He pulled up historical footage from Earth. This is from our early space exploration before we met other species. The screen showed human astronauts in primitive spacecraft. That mission experienced multiple critical failures. Life support systems malfunctioned. Temperature controls failed. But the crew survived for 6 days in conditions that would have killed most galactic species within hours. Howe asked. Improvisation and stubbornness, Madison said. Humans are very good at making broken things work. We lived on a planet that constantly tried to kill us, so we learned to fix problems with whatever materials we had available. Some people call it human ingenuity. I call it desperation refined into a skill. Spoke up, show them the Titan rescue. Madison pulled up another file. 3 years ago, our mining outpost on Titan experienced catastrophic equipment failure. The entire facility lost power during a storm. Temperatures dropped to minus 180 degrees. Toxic atmosphere started leaking into the habitat sections. The footage showed 3 humans in damaged environment suits walking through darkness. Lieutenant Jake, engineer, and Dr. Alan Wright. They walked 12 kilometers through Titan's surface conditions to reach the backup power station. It took them 14 hours. Impossible, a warrior breathed. No species can survive those temperatures. We nearly didn't, Madison admitted. All 3 suffered severe hypothermia and frostbite, but they reached the backup station, restored power, and saved 43 lives. They spent 2 months recovering, but they all returned to active duty. Ra looked at, this is not unusual for your species. It's extreme, said carefully, but not outside human capability. We have stories like that throughout our history. People surviving impossible situations through determination and refusal to give up. Madison continued his presentation. Our immune system is another advantage. Earth's biodiversity included countless pathogens. Our bodies learn to fight disease aggressively. We have multiple defense layers, from skin bacteria to white blood cells to antibody production. Most galactic diseases barely register as threats to us. What about your regeneration? Asked. The data suggested humans can heal from injuries that would be fatal to warrior races. Not fatal injuries, Madison corrected. We die like anyone else if vital organs are destroyed, but our recovery capacity is impressive. We can regrow skin, repair muscle tissue, reconnect damaged nerves to some extent. The liver can regenerate from as little as 25% remaining mass. We've had soldiers lose limbs and return to combat duty with prosthetic replacements. He pulled up medical scans. This is Security Chief Hayes, the man you saw fighting Lieutenant Grant this morning. 3 years ago, he was caught in an explosion during a pirate raid. Severe burns across 40% of his body, lung damage from smoke inhalation, broken ribs and internal bleeding. The scans showed the extent of the damage. The warriors clicked in sympathy. He was in medical care for 6 months, Madison continued. But he recovered fully. The burns healed. The lungs regenerated damaged tissue, the ribs knitted back together. Now he's our chief of security and one of our best fighters. Your military must be formidable, said quietly. Our military is primarily defensive, corrected. We don't seek conquest, but yes, human soldiers are effective. We combine physical advantages with tactical thinking and adaptability. Other species are often surprised by our combat capabilities. Lieutenant Grant spoke from her position at the conference table. The designation came from other species, not us. They started calling us that after seeing human crews working in deep space. Places where other species needed extensive life support, humans could function with minimal equipment. It was like we were made for space, forged from stars instead of ordinary evolution. But you were forged by Earth, Ra said. That created predators wearing friendly faces. We prefer to think of it as survival specialists wearing diplomatic uniforms, Grant replied with a slight smile. Madison closed his presentation. The key point is this: humans didn't choose to be physically impressive. Earth made us this way. Every advantage we have came at the cost of surviving a world that killed those who couldn't adapt. We're not warriors by culture, we're survivors by necessity. Stood silent for a long moment, processing everything. His warriors were equally quiet. Finally, he spoke. Commander, I must apologize. We arrived yesterday with arrogance born of ignorance. We assumed human friendliness indicated weakness. We were very wrong. No apology necessary, said. Many species make that mistake initially. We don't advertise our capabilities because we're not trying to intimidate anyone. We just want peaceful cooperation. Nevertheless, continued, the Dominion must reassess this diplomatic mission. You are not the species we thought we were negotiating with. You are far more than that. Ra stepped forward. War Prime, with your permission, I would like to request something unusual. Speak, Scout Commander. I wish to participate in human training, Ra said. To truly understand a warrior culture, one must train with them. I want to see what we witnessed this morning from inside, not as an observer. Looked surprised but pleased. You're welcome to join our afternoon session. It's less intense than morning pie tea, but it should give you a good experience of human training methods. I will join as well, decided. If we are to build a true alliance with humanity, we must understand what you are capable of, not just from data files but through direct experience. Other warriors volunteered immediately. Within minutes, the entire delegation had committed to joining human training sessions. Grant smiled. I'll arrange appropriate facilities and equipment, but I should warn you we don't adjust our routines for visitors. You'll be training at human standard levels. We would expect nothing less, replied. Warriors learn through challenge, not comfort. The treaty negotiations proceeded through the afternoon, but the entire tone had changed. They no longer spoke from a position of assumed superiority. Instead, they approached humans as equals, perhaps even with a touch of caution that comes from recognizing another apex predator. When the discussion turned to military cooperation, made a surprising proposal. The Dominion would like to establish an exchange program, warriors training with human forces and human soldiers learning from our combat traditions. That's an excellent idea, agreed. We can learn from each other. Your species has 3,000 years of military experience. We have adaptability and unconventional thinking. Together, we could develop combined forces that would benefit both our peoples. As the formal negotiations concluded, check the time. The afternoon training session begins in 30 minutes. I'll meet you all at the gym. The delegation returned to their quarters to prepare. Ra stood at the viewport again, looking down at the training hall where this morning's revelation had occurred. We came here believing ourselves superior, she said to. We leave knowing we have found allies who will make us stronger. And whom we must never underestimate, added. Remember this lesson, all of you. These humans smile and speak of peace while carrying the strength of in their bones. They are exactly what the galaxy needs, warriors who choose not to make war. The afternoon training session began exactly on schedule. 12 warriors stood in the human gym wearing modified exercise clothing that accommodated their armored bodies. Around them, 30 human crew members prepared for their daily workout with the casual efficiency of long practice. Commander approached the delegation with Lieutenant Grant at his side. Welcome to human training, he said. We'll start with warm-up exercises and progress from there. If you need to stop at any point, don't hesitate. There's no shame in recognizing your limits. Appreciated the consideration, but he was a war prime of the Dominion. His warriors were elite fighters who had trained since childhood. Surely they could manage a routine performed by human civilians. That confidence lasted approximately 15 minutes. The warm-up consisted of exercises the humans called jumping jacks, running in place, and dynamic stretching. Simple movements that gradually increased heart rate and prepared muscles for heavier work. They matched the pace easily at first, but the humans didn't stop. The warm-up continued for 20 minutes, building in intensity until Ra felt her breathing become labored. "That was just the warm-up," Grant announced cheerfully. "Now we start the actual workout." Divided everyone into groups. They stayed together while human crew members spread throughout the gym. "We'll begin with exercises," explained. "Push-ups first. Standard position is hands shoulder-width apart, body straight from head to feet. Lower until your chest nearly touches the floor, then press back up." He demonstrated the movement. It looked simple enough, and his warriors assumed the position, called for the exercise to begin. The first 10 repetitions were manageable. By 20, Ra's arms were trembling. At 30, 2 younger warriors had to stop and rest. The humans around them continued without pause. Commander was still moving with perfect form, his breathing steady and controlled. 50, finally called. The humans rose smoothly to their feet. Half the warriors were still on the floor, struggling to complete their final repetitions. "That was one set," Grant said. "We usually do 3 sets with short rest between." Managed to complete all 3 sets, but barely. His warriors showed similar struggle. These were elite soldiers, trained in the Dominion's finest combat academies, and they were being exhausted by exercises that human scientists and engineers performed casually. Next came pull-ups. The humans approached bars mounted on wall structures and began lifting their bodies with controlled precision. Ra watched Murphy, the young human female from the morning session, complete 25 pull-ups without stopping. Murphy's arms were trembling by the end, but she finished the set and moved on to the next exercise. Ra attempted to match her. She managed 15 before her grip failed and she had to drop to the ground. Around her, other warriors were experiencing similar limits. "Don't worry about matching the humans exactly," Security Chief Hayes called to them. He was supervising one section of the gym. "They've been doing this daily for years. Just push yourself and do your best. That's all training requires." But there were warriors. Pride drove them to attempt what the humans demonstrated. They moved to the weight stations where was loading a barbell. "This is a basic bench press," he explained. "You lie on the bench, lower the weight to your chest, and press it back up." The weights loaded looked heavy. Calculated the mass at roughly 120 kilograms. Surely that was for advanced lifters. Positioned himself on the bench, gripped the bar, and began lifting. 1 repetition. 2. He continued for 10 complete presses, then set the bar back on its supports and sat up. "That's my working weight," he said calmly. "Start with whatever feels comfortable for you." Reduced the weight to 80 kilograms and attempted the exercise. His first press was difficult but successful. By the 5th repetition, his arms were shaking. He completed 8 before having to stop. "Good work," encouraged. "You'll build up to heavier weights over time. The key is consistency, not immediate results." The training continued through various exercises. Squats that made leg muscles burn, running drills that tested cardiovascular endurance, core work that strengthened abdominal muscles. Each exercise pushed the warriors closer to exhaustion while the humans maintained their steady pace. An hour into the session, Ra noticed something interesting. The humans were tired too. Their breathing was heavy, sweat dripped from their bodies, and their movements showed fatigue. But they didn't stop. They pushed through the discomfort with determination that seemed hardwired into their behavior. "Why do you do this?" she asked Lieutenant Grant during a water break. "You've already established that humans are physically superior to most species. Why maintain such brutal training?" Grant wiped sweat from her face and smiled. "Because if we don't, we lose it. Our bodies are adapted for high-stress environments. If we get too comfortable, we become weak. The training isn't about being superior to other species. It's about maintaining what Earth gave us." She gestured at the gym full of humans. "Everyone here knows that space is easier than home. Lower gravity, controlled environments, no predators or natural disasters. We could relax and let our bodies adapt to the easy life. But then we'd lose the capabilities that make us effective in emergencies. So we train every day, maintaining Earth-level fitness even though we don't technically need it anymore." "You choose to suffer," Ra said in wonder. "Not because you must, but because you refuse to become less than you are." "That's a poetic way to put it," Grant agreed. "We just call it staying in shape." The final portion of the afternoon session was combat practice. Paired warriors with human partners of similar size. "We'll practice basic sparring," he explained. "Light contact only. The goal is to learn each other's fighting styles and techniques." Faced Commander directly. Both wore protective padding and stood in fighting stances. Moved first, testing with a quick jab that blocked easily. The War Prime countered with a sweeping strike that deflected and converted into a grappling attempt. They exchanged techniques for several minutes. Had superior reach and his armored body gave natural protection, but was faster, more flexible, and his strikes carried surprising power for his size. Neither scored a decisive advantage, and after the round ended, both stood breathing hard and nodding with respect. Across the gym, other pairs were discovering similar dynamics. They had formal training and natural advantages. The humans had adaptability and conditioning that let them keep fighting long after most species would exhaust. When the session finally ended after 2 full hours, every warrior was completely spent. They had been humbled by a workout that human civilians performed as routine maintenance. Called everyone together for final stretches and cool down. "Good work today," he said to them. "You pushed yourselves hard. That's the warrior spirit we respect." Later that evening, the delegation gathered in their quarters. Stood at the viewport again, looking out at the stars beyond the station. His warriors sat in various states of exhaustion and contemplation. "Report," he said formally. Ra spoke first. "We have severely underestimated humanity. Their physical capabilities are impressive, but their mental conditioning is even more significant. They choose difficulty when ease is available. They maintain readiness even in peace. This suggests a culture that values preparation and refuses to accept weakness." "Agreed," said another warrior. "And they do this while maintaining scientific research, engineering work, and diplomatic functions. They are not single-purpose warriors like our soldier caste. They are universal threats who happen to prefer cooperation." Turned to face his delegation. "We will recommend the strongest possible alliance to the Dominion Council. Humanity is exactly what they appear to be, friendly, diplomatic, and interested in peaceful cooperation. But underneath that pleasant exterior is a species forged into creatures of extraordinary capability. They call themselves," Ra added. "Other species gave them that name, but it fits. They were made strong by Earth, and now they walk among the stars like it's natural, because for them it is. Space is easier than home." The next morning, they joined the humans for morning PT again. This time they knew what to expect. The exercises were still brutal, but the warriors attacked them with new determination. If humans could maintain this standard, then warriors would learn to match it. At breakfast, sat with Commander and officially signed the treaty documents. "The Dominion is honored to ally with humanity," he said formally. "We came expecting a simple trade agreement. We leave with partners who will make us stronger." "The feeling is mutual," replied. "We have much to learn from the Dominion's military traditions. This alliance benefits both our peoples." As they prepared to depart later that day, Ra approached Lieutenant Grant one final time. "A question, if I may." "Of course," Grant said. This morning, Commander ordered something called challenge wings at breakfast. He ate them without difficulty. My scanner indicated they contained chemical compounds that should have caused pain. Grant laughed. "Hot sauce. It's a food additive made from peppers. Capsaicin is the active compound. Humans eat it for flavor even though it triggers our pain receptors." "You consume pain for entertainment." "We consume flavor," Grant corrected. "The pain is just part of the experience. Some humans actually compete to see who can tolerate the highest levels of capsaicin. It's a game." Ra was silent for a moment. "Your species eats chemical weapons as a game. You train until exhaustion every morning before work. You come from a world that tries to kill everything on it, and you smile through all of it." "We do," Grant agreed simply. "You are terrifying," Ra said, but her tone held respect rather than fear. "In the best possible way, the galaxy is fortunate that humanity chooses friendship over conquest." "We learned a long time ago that working together beats fighting alone," Grant said. "Earth taught us that lesson thoroughly. Species that cooperate survive. Those that don't disappear." The delegation departed with new understanding and new respect. Filed his report to the Dominion Council that evening. In it, he described humanity as the most dangerous peaceful species in known space. who maintained their brutal conditioning even in civilized space, warriors who chose diplomacy while keeping their combat edge sharp. He recommended full military alliance and exchange programs. He suggested warriors train regularly with human forces to learn their methods, and he warned the council never to make the mistake of viewing humans as weak simply because they smiled and spoke of cooperation. The report concluded with a simple observation. The humans call their morning training and breakfast routine normal. If that is their standard, imagine what they consider extraordinary. The Dominion is fortunate to have them as allies rather than enemies. On station, life continued its normal rhythm. Morning tea at 0600, breakfast at 0730, work throughout the day, afternoon training, evening meals and rest. Commander stood in his office that night, looking at the signed treaty documents. Lieutenant Grant joined him. They were surprised, she observed. Most species are at first, replied. They see us being friendly and assume we're soft. Then they see what we consider a normal day and they recalculate everything. Should we warn the next delegation? Smiled, no, let them learn the same way. It's more effective that way. Besides, there's no point in bragging about something that's just normal for us. Just breakfast, Grant agreed. Just breakfast, repeated. Though I should probably ask the kitchen to go easy on the challenge wings next time. I think we broke poor Ra's scanner with those. They laughed together as the station continued its rotation, home to humans who walked among the stars carrying strength in their bones and choosing every day to use that strength for building rather than destroying. Living up to their name one normal morning at a time.